So, Ken, we're going to talk about work-life balance. So, everyone has two sides of themselves. You have the work version that you display when you're at work, and you have the version that you present when you're around friends, loved ones. How do you know when to activate the on and off switch?
Um, it's just compartmentalizing your parts of your life. So at work, I'm more professional and uptight. I don't speak freely like I would with my friends and um family. I guess the best way to describe it is you have your professional voice. Like my mom used to say, you have your regular voice, and then you have your white voice, quote unquote. That's your work voice. So that's when you're at work, you're speaking. Oh yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, absolutely. I can take care of that. All of those things. But when you're out and about and you're just being yourself, you just kind of speak in any manner. So it's just being able to compartmentalize when you log off to take off that personality and be your actual self.
There's always that one coworker that finds a way to break into our personal life. How do you know what to tell that individual?
Um, for me at least, I keep it limited. So if it's a coworker and you're still at that workplace, I wouldn't tell them too much. Keep it limited as possible because you never know. They're not somebody that's always been around, and they're around temporarily. So you kind of have to spoon fed and kind of see what you can trust and allow them to know. But I still keep it limited if you're still at that workplace at least.
What is the difference between a coworker and a colleague?
Um, for me at least, a coworker is just somebody I work with. So I'm not cool with them. We only talk at work. We're cool. For me, a colleague is somebody I can collaborate with extensively outside, even outside of work. So a colleague would be like somebody I went to college with, or somebody that I work with that I do projects with outside of work. And a coworker is just like, hey, we clock in on Monday at 9. I see you there at 9. Once I clock out at 5, I'm not thinking about you. We're not texting, talking, nothing. Like just right before this one, when I was talking to someone I called my colleague, because we're kind of in more of a friendship coworker situation compared to just only talking at work.
So, a colleague is a coworker that you introduced into your personal life. A coworker is someone you just strictly keep within that professional workspace.
That's how I view it. They could be one and the same for some people, but for me, that's how I separate the two.
Can we ever be friends with our coworkers?
Yeah, there's a lot of coworkers that I'm friends with now. A lot of my old coworkers are personal friends of mine now.
How do you know to bring a coworker onto the bridge of being a colleague?
So for me, it's I look at instances. So if there's an instance where we're in a meeting and something funny happens and we both laugh, most of the time the people who are overly professional, they'll never be a colleague. But if it's someone that kind of shows some liveliness to them, some natural, like I'm a human being, not just a working machine, those are the people that I can be like, okay, I can probably hang with or if they crack a joke or something like that. Like it has to be like that instance where um, you can see their humility. You can see their personable side, their not just professional side.
So, humility in a coworker is one factor that gets them over to the bridge of being a colleague. Are there any other factors?
Um, for me, is that, and then also I would say they look out for you. You have those coworkers that y'all do work together, but like you know, let's say for instance you were out Monday because of something happened, and as soon as you came in Tuesday before you did anything, they're like, hey. Let me talk to you real quick. This is what happened yesterday, and kind of speed you up to things that happened the day before. Those are the people that you can more so bring into your personal life because they actually care about you not losing your job and prepare you for any instances you might have missed when you're out.
Describe a time when you took the risk and introduced a coworker into your personal life and you regretted it.
Um, yeah, so there was a coworker I introduced in my personal life. We were cool for a while, but then I had left the company, and then we kind of hung out from time to time. Um, he had an instance. This is a coworker that had an instance of lashing out on social media. Um, he was going through a lot in his personal life. That's kind of why I started to distance myself after I left. And then he lashed out on LinkedIn and he was tagging our managers and saying, "Was she not a good worker? Why did you fire me?" Things of that nature. And like it was all managers that me and him had, become colleagues with. Like they were friends because they referred us to other jobs after we left that company too. So he kind of ruined that relationship and that bridge. And we were already in an environment where we were the minorities, like a very large, don't want to, I'm not racist, but it was a very large white company. And there were a few of us that were not white on the company. So he made us look bad of that brigade of us that were non-white employees. So I kind of stayed away from him.
Could that relationship ever have been repaired?
Yeah, the relationship can always be repaired. I'm not one to kind of just shun people out. As long as you ain't hurt my family or try to kill me, I think most things can be repaired with a simple apology and figuring out things.
Describe a time when you took the risk and introduced a coworker into your personal life and it was highly worth.
Yeah, we don't talk as much anymore. My coworker Ashley from Target Mobile, I always stand by this. She gave me a lot of advice when I was young on figuring out life and doing the things right, based on her experience and what she went through. To this today, somebody I always look up to just because she went through a lot, but didn't let that get her down. And she always found the good in things and find out how to get out of certain situations. And she gave me a lot of advice on how to handle being a parent at a young age and kind of managing my relationship with my significant other and things of that nature.
Are there times when coworkers could do the most in trying to be your friend?
Yeah, had a coworker, same company with the guy who lashed out. We had a coworker that wanted to hang with us so bad. He was going smoke breaks with the people that smoke, and he don't smoke. He started doing Juul. This one, Juul and vapor, e-cigs were starting to get popular in the beginning. He started doing that just so he can hang with us. He started listening to rap music so he can suggest songs to me and stuff like that. Um, he was doing the whole nine to hang out, and then we had a falling out because he did some dishonest things at work.
So his method was low key working. It's just when he did that dishonest thing, that's when it just fell out completely.
It wasn't low key working because he was also not like he wasn't relatable to us, but he was trying to be related to us as possible. And we kind of just it's one of those situations like we have to work together. We do the same thing, and it's like we can't avoid him. So it's okay if he's a fly on the wall, but he's not someone that we just choose to always hang out with. He just happens to be there.
When when invited to work events outside of work, you have the intersection between professionalism and personal life. How do you filter out what you say versus what you want to keep to yourself?
Um, I don't tell anything. I'm not. I don't. When I'm at work events, I don't keep. I like unless we're colleagues, for instance, or have a established relationship. I like to keep my personal life personal and not to tell too much of what's going on. I feel like there are people who are very open up front, but I always feel like that could harm your employment because anything you can say can be used against you. I always try to, even if it's a work event and it's something that is outgoing and you can be yourself in that setting naturally, but you still got to be aware that this is still something for your place of employment. So we had a instance at work where someone exposed that they were into some very disturbing things. Um, and it was the talk of the town at the company for a while. And that was kind of my learning moment of like, hey, I'm not going to be talking about none of that stuff.
Okay. So before that incident happened, how were you more open?
No, I still wasn't. That just kind of solidified my approach. Once that happened, then it was like, okay, I know that I'm moving in the correct manner by not, exposing myself and discussing certain things.
How long was that the talk of town within that company?
Oh, until the girl got fired, basically.
So they were going to fire her eventually.
Not necessarily. She just began underperforming. But the whole time from that moment she brought that up for the rest of her employment, it was something that was brought up at every company function, basically.
At events where alcohol is introduced, was there ever a time when your viewpoint on someone shifted the minute you heard someone say a certain something that you didn't rock with?
Yeah, it's a few times. There are instances where alcohol was involved, and someone who I thought was just a colleague, and we just worked together, expressed interest beyond work, and I no, just couldn't do it. There were even instances where someone got drunk and um, they began saying racial things, but they were trying to say it in a lightly manner, as in like in a jokingly way. But I could tell that that was their honest beliefs.
So let me get this straight. They were so drunk that they were properly trying to be racist.
Yeah. So they were telling jokes. So it was a smaller company. So we had like running jokes, like simple running jokes, like small things. Not something that's like harmful. Like we had Indians and we were talking about Indian spices and stuff like that, or like African Americans and we'll talk about, man, you eating good, food well seasoned, stuff like that, right? And in this instance, they kind of went beyond that, just like small little, hey, you're well seasoned food. It was more like a, hey, you're possibly the N word, but not saying the N word, which, yeah.
How was that individual told that they went over the top?
I don't think anyone told them. They just kind of, I feel like because it was so uncomfortable feeling when it happened, everyone just kind of ignored him.
How did the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic affect the relationship one one would have with coworkers and colleagues?
Yeah, I think COVID ruined a lot of the camaraderie because you were work from home. But I feel also COVID had a larger effect in itself because a lot of people lost their social abilities during COVID. I feel like as people were naturally gravitate being social, being around people, COVID not allowing us to be out and about and mingling kind of ruled a lot of people's social skills. So it made it hard for when people were actually around their coworkers once the heightened quarantines and stuff died down, that they didn't even know how to like crack jokes or be personable or be friendly with people because they were so used to just being at home in their bubble with the people that they were with, that now interacting with people outside of that bubble, it was kind of awkward.
Describe the times when colleagues desperately wanted you to pop out on a weekend night and you weren't feeling it.
um there was a couple times, a lot of companies I worked at were a bunch of young people that wanted to just kind of go out and do stuff.
Describe a notorious time.
Oh, so they used to do so this, I guess this won't be a weekend, it's like a Thursday. For instance, every Thursday they used to go to this hookah lounge after work. So we'll stay late work to like 6 and then go to a hookah lounge. Um they consistently invited me. So first couple times I went, and then I was like, yeah, this is not my crowd of people to kind of be around. Just kind of the discussions and the stuff that they were ordering and eating and how they were like eating. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna, I can't pop out that much with these people. Um, and then it became like a routine thing. Every Thursday, hey, we're going here. You coming? And then I was like, yeah, I can't keep doing this. It wasn't nothing against them. They're cool in their own right. It's just not my environment. They treated it more so like uh, how can I describe it? Like a popularity contest in a way. And I just kind of couldn't get by that. Like who had the most craziest story? That's kind of they treated it. And every time we were amongst each other, it was one of those situations of like, oh, unveil this personal part about your life so that we can all talk about it. And I'm just, that's not me.
And did they do so when alcohol was involved?
Oh, always alcohol. There's always alcohol involved. They brought alcohol to the office on Fridays. Like it was a thing for them to, let's get drunk and expose ourselves to each other about things that we have.
Why is alcohol the main factor that acts as getting professionalism and mixing it with personal life?
Because most people believe when someone is under the influence, they are more comfortable with being themselves, and there's a possibility of them slipping up and telling you something that you're not really supposed to know. It's the same with unfortunately, why people try to coerce the opposite sex to drink so that they can get sexually involved with them. It's that instance of having that one thing that can possibly get them over that edge to be okay with doing certain things.
Was there ever a time when you were truly disappointed in a coworker or colleague to the point where it hurt you?
Man, I don't think so. I don't think I've cared that much. Oh, maybe I gotta think.
Like it just hurt your soul, like you were just disappointed, like you
Or someone crashed out and you're like, yo, not the homie.
Okay, yeah. So there's one. So we had it's that one company. I'm not gonna name the company. We used to call it the Black Coalition because we were the minority in the company. It was just us. Like I think it was like six of us that were on that team that were black. So we kind of created like a little team called the Black Coalition, right? One of the senior guys that was there, that was older, he kept saying that they were racially profiling him. And I kind of looked into the situation when he was explaining. I was like, they're not racially profiling you. You're just looking for a quick check. So he created an entire situation and got people involved to kind of write a case against the company. And then that put all of us, the rest of us who were black, under the scope at that time. Um, and it made our jobs difficult because now they were looking to see who's going to join his lawsuit that he's planning to have. And that created a lot of problems within the company itself. And it was a weird situation because he was a top performer. He was doing well, so it just didn't make sense to why he was trying to create this thing that wasn't there. And it just made the job hard for all of us. Luckily, I ended up not being at that company after a while once that happened. But it was just kind of those situations where it's like, I looked up to him because he was older, and he had a lot more experience than me. Like he's been in the game for 20 years. And he taught me how to do some of the stuff I did in sales, but things just happen that way.
what ended up being his fate?
I have no idea. I don't. He's not on social media or nothing. He's like one of those monks. You can't find anything about him.
Describe a time when you told someone something and it ended up spreading like wildfire.
Oh,
Even if it wasn't something that involved your personal life.
um, dang, that's a lot of stuff. um, I guess something that told someone that spread like wildfire. I guess when I was first having my daughter, and I found out I didn't tell anyone, I just kind of was like work my work life balance kind of tipped over because I was doing a lot more. I kept it a secret, and then when I told my manager at the time, just because it was like she was concerned of why I was showing up late and all of these things, and I told her, she sent it out in like the group message, so the whole like district knew, like all of the district managers knew about it. And then they started asking about personal life and like trying to be involved and asking me like, am I married, and trying to when you tell someone you're having a kid at a young age, especially older people, they unintentionally try to give you advice even if you don't ask for it. They insert themselves into your life to tell you this is what you don't need to do, and it's like me personally, how I move life, I take advice if I need it, but at that moment I didn't need the advice. I was still trying to figure things out, so it was like an overload, and it was very uncomfortable because I like my personal life to be personal, and I don't like to tell stuff like that. I trusted her in that moment, and I just kind of learned she's one of those people that likes to talk because she not only told the entire district, she told our entire story. So it's like our small company within the company knew, and then the broader team knew as well. So it was a lot.
Were you pissed?
I was at first, and then I just kind of got over it and just moved on with my life. That was actually one of the main factors that pushed me out of that role just because I didn't trust him anymore.
So whenever you came in the office, was it more like, hey, look who's having a baby today?
Yeah, it was more so like, man, Ken, I heard you. I can't believe you. Like, man, you make all the right decisions. It was like one of those situations, like, yo, like, all right, cool, like I get it, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to hear that every day I see you.
You started a cult, basically.
I don't know what it was, but it's uncomfortable. And I ain't.
Has there ever been a time you heard unneeded information about a coworker or colleague's personal life and it just had you stressed out?
Yes. I had a coworker who was basically broke, broke, like bro couldn't make it to work that day because he didn't have money for gas. And yes, his wife just had 2 kids. And I didn't ask for the information. I was just kind of set up to like check if he's gonna come in because he didn't come in the day he was supposed to. So I kind of just did a brief check-in, and then he just started pouring out all of this things that's going on with his life. And like me, like at the time I was a young kid, like I was 18, 19 years old. I didn't have none of these problems. I'm in college. I'm living life. I don't have those problems. So it made me concerned because I was like, yo, man, this guy's going through a lot. He got 2 kids. He just had 2 kids. He ain't got no water in his house. He don't know what he's going to eat tonight. He don't know how he's going to make it to work. If he don't make it to work, he don't got money. I was just like, yo, this is a lot for a 19-year-old to deal with. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was different when you had those kind of difficulties in the house at home, but it's more different when it's like you have to deal with somebody that you depend on at work, because now it's affecting my money because you're not showing up and it's affecting my time. So it put a lot of stress on me to kind of figure out what I'm gonna do since he couldn't handle what was going on, and kind of be able to help him or find if someone could help him. I ended up finding someone to help him, but it was just a lot at the moment, especially with what we were dealing with at that time.
Was it one of those situations where every time you made eye contact with him, like he had his eyes like, help me, basically?
Yeah, bro looked depressed. So before this happened, he was always a happy, joking guy. So I didn't know none of this was going on. And he had just left because he had kids. So he was on paternity leave. And then when he came back, it was just like, how can you describe it? You ever have that person that, used to always dress up? It's like that SpongeBob meme. You ever seen that SpongeBob thing with Squidward where he's happy in his own town? He's enjoying it at first, and then after a few days, Squidward starts to look sad because it's just a repetition of the same thing and he's bored. That's how he evolved. Like, he went from being that joking, happy guy that used to play with his key thing all the time to he coming to work, his collar for our work shirt is rolled up like this. He got a stain from baby milk or throw up. He got pants not ironed, like, just looking unprofessional because he has so much going on in his life and he's bringing all of his baggage to work.
How is work life when someone has a newly born baby? How does that affect the workplace?
Um, you're not supposed to let it affect the workplace, but inevitably you do. For most people, you get paternity leave if the company offer it. For me, I didn't have that. But I had a strong, my wife now was strong enough to kind of help bear a lot of the weight to kind of help me continue what I was doing in a correct fashion. It affects when you're dealing with that. At least what I say from experience from my other siblings, you're tired a lot. It's not gonna. I'm not gonna say it's gonna affect your performance as much, but it'll affect how you handle certain things at work. You become, if you're someone that does well at your job and you take pride in that, you go from being that guy who's going to overwork to over deliver to being that guy that's just going to work enough to hit the baseline because you have so many other things to deal with outside of work. So it can turn that employee of the month for the last 12 years into just the standard employee, just because there's a lot that goes into having to take care of a second life.
Can you be fired for going to the best employee to now you're just a standard employee?
You can. I've seen it happen before, but in most places, no. I feel like in most places they'd be more concerned about what happened versus letting you go because they've seen what you can do. Um, I've been in a role where I was the best employee, and in my mind, I knew I was leaving the job, so I stopped working as hard. And that's when concern built with management, trying to figure out, hey, he's not doing what he used to do anymore. Like, what's going on with him? And they start to check in on you even more to make sure you're still in that role and everything is going good. But the you can be fired, but most places won't fire. They'll just kind of check in to make sure that you're okay.
Why would they? Why would they check in if you're just working like everyone else now?
It's because it's like the saying, like the first impression is the best impression. So you've made that impression on them that this is the quality of work I'm going to expect from you, and they want you to stay at that baseline forever. So that's why I don't always recommend people to go into a job and excel and do well up front, because now you don't have moments to stress and kind of be mediocre at any point. So that's really what it is. It's like they expect a certain quality. Once that quality drops, it becomes a concern, because it's like, why aren't you performing at the level we expect Ken to perform from day one, or from whatever period you started performing that well?
So, as a worker, can you spoil management?
Yes. A lot of employees do that. You have those people that they're like teachers' pets. They do the most, and they make it hard for the average employee because they overwork and do a lot more that's not needed. So now they set the bar for how the rest of the team perform, and that's how management looks at it. So typically, what happens when you get into a new role, you're gonna get trained, right? Everyone experiences this. You get a job, you get trained, and after a while, you know that one person at work that do stuff a certain way because he figured out, hey, I don't have to do all of this. Like, they have loopholes, right? And you learn their loopholes, and you start to do that loopholes, right? But then you'll always have that one person that's like, I'm not gonna do loopholes. I'm gonna keep doing it this way, and then I'm gonna even do this. That person is who management always look at as for the standard. So let's say, for instance, you have one bad day and this person has never had a bad day. When you have that meeting with your management, they're going to be like, hey, Carrie never had a bad day. Carrie, we're supposed to do 200 today. Carrie did 250. You only did the 150 baseline. What's going on? Why are you holding us back? And it's never a holding back situation. They're just making comparison of someone that's trying to be an overachiever compared to somebody who's meeting the baseline of what is required for the role.
They're trying to basically get in your head for you to start performing at the rate that you were doing before.
Or the rate that exceeds what you're supposed to do.
Work snitches, do they really exist?
Yes, they exist. There's a lot of them, and people make a profession out of being work snitches.
So they make a profession out of doing their job, and then on top of that, they are work snitches on the side.
Yes, there's people that will literally, hey, I know Ken always come in at 7, but he clocks in 6:30, and they'll tell management, hey, you might want to check the cameras to see. Like, there's people that will literally do that. They get enjoyment out of getting other people in trouble. It's like that kid that used to always tell on you for no reason. Like, I don't want to say it's like your little sister, mom, he's doing this, but it's like one of those. Like, you make one small mistake and they're calling mom, and now you're in trouble because of something that nobody would have known unless they say something. Some people get enjoyment from it. Others use it as an opportunity to leverage when they want to move up or more pay. So the I say there's pros and cons to being a work is. The con is the rest of your team won't like you, and you're gonna ruin company morale for for your other coworkers. The pro is you get in the pocket for management, because now they can look at you as somebody that they can put in charge of certain things, because you're unintentionally being a manager, because you're unintentionally watching and making sure people are doing things correctly, or if they are cutting corners. But then that also gives you leverage for if you're looking for a raise. You can be like, hey man, remember I had your back when Anthony kept coming late. I picked up the slack. I told you, hey, Anthony's logging in late, but I can do his work for him to kind of help make sure that we don't fall slow. Those are the conversations they're able to have, because they've taken the approach of being a snitch to kind of leverage that for their own benefit.
Do work snitches directly know what they're doing?
Most of the time, yes. Sometimes no. Some people are just, hey, I'm good. I follow by the rules. You need to follow by the rules because I follow by the rules.
What are the true benefits that come with reporting information back to the front office?
True benefits, like I said, leverage for more pay, leverage for upward mobility, so you can become manager because you're already basically doing
But
management.
what's that one benefit? Like just that, like,
One benefit is the managerial role. For the most part, work snitches want to be management. So they want to be a supervisor. They want to be somebody that can basically control everyone else. So they use that as a, hey, I can manage. I can, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do as a supervisor, I can let you know we can get them out of here.
were work snitches bullied when they were younger?
I think so. I'd assume most of them were, but I don't 100% know. I think it's case by case basis. I would believe majority of them were. I think others are just power hungry, or controlling.
It's not natural to just always be reporting on what someone else is doing. That's an unnatural
Yeah.
behavior.
I mean, you would think so, but think about it when we were younger, we were in school and kids. You probably know someone. Everyone has that one person that you should just tell on people for no reason. The person that when you were kids, the tattleteller that used to just tell for no reason. Some people just get a high off of that. Everyone has things that they enjoy doing. Some people get a high off of like, oh, I got this guy in trouble. Got him. Like some people's like, boom, perfect opportunity. I got him in trouble. And it could be just simply off of like, some people's mentality is like you rub them off wrong one time and they're going to remember that forever. And they're going to, from that day forth, they're plotting for the opportunity to get you in trouble because of that one time you didn't say good morning to them the way they like, or that one time they were about to park and you didn't see them and you took their parking space. Now, for the rest of your employment, they're like, every time Andrew clocks in or I see Andrew come 1 minute late, I'm going to mark it down. And I'm like, hey, check camera for this day. I saw Andrew came in at 8:02 instead of coming in at 8 o'clock exactly.
Can work snitches, how petty do work snitches get?
They can get very petty. They can go down to telling on your bathroom breaks, when you're on smoke breaks, when you lunch, when you're going to go get lunch. Like, I've had an employee, well, I'm not going to say an employee. Why I say it like that? I had a coworker where we weren't supposed to leave the building when we were going to lunch because of where we were working. Somebody did, and he literally told. As soon as the guy got in the car, he was watching from the break room, watched the guy get in the car and drive off. He went and told management, hey, Terry left to go get lunch. And he's not supposed to leave where we are for today because of where we were at the time. And the person ended up getting their contract ended. But they get that petty to the point where it's like they're waiting for you to slip up to tell them.
Can a work snitch speed up the process of when people typically want to stay at a company?
Yes. A work snitch can influence somebody to leave. I feel like there's two people that can influence somebody to not be stagnant at a dead end job or just to be stagnant in a role. Is one, micromanagers, so those managers that are hands on, a little bit too hands on, and work snitches. So if you have someone that's always watching everything you do that don't need to, it's going to make you hate working that place, working at a job. And then if you have a micromanager that's over your shoulder on every little thing, they're kind of one and the same because both of them are looking for the one slip up you have to have an opportunity to either come and question you or have an opportunity to get you removed.
Describe a work snitch experience where someone snitched on you, but the outcome was beneficial for you.
So there was an application we weren't licensed to use at one of my companies. And I was using it at a previous company. So I just purchased a separate license for myself to use it. This was at a smaller company and I was using it and it was helping me perform better. And the other person who was in sales kind of got upset because my performance exceeded his, even though we were baseline at one point. And he told management, he's like, Ken has an unfair advantage. He's been using this tool and it's been helping him. And that's why his numbers has been so good. And he's trying to outperform me. So basically telling that I'm using the tool that we don't have access to, blah. And I was wrong for using it because it's against the company code to put our information on that tool. But it actually benefited me because now they asked me to present the tool and see how they can implement it. And then they ended up purchasing the product license for the rest of the company and implement the tool. The guy got upset because I got rewarded in a way for breaking company code, but it was a smaller company, so they didn't take it as seriously. All they cared about was the bottom line, and as long as that was increasing, they wanted to hear about it.
Since it worked out in his favor, you think he was motivated to try harder?
No. He hated me until I left. He he didn't try harder. He didn't even want to do the training because he didn't want me to, because he's been there longer than me, and he didn't want me to kind of feel like I had one up on him because I had more efficient process. Um, he ended up overall leaving the company because of me. Um, but yeah, no, it didn't impact him to want to do more.
Do work snitches have a certain look to them?
Nope.
Oh, good.
The only reason I say no because you could be at work and it'll be the sweetest old lady at your job. You think she's so sweet and nice, and she always give you compliments saying you're so handsome. The whole time she's been telling them that you take 2 minutes extra on your lunch because you go to the bathroom.
On the weekends, what do work snitches do? Because they're so used to, throwing people under the bus Monday to Friday that, it's hard to imagine that they actually have a social life.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they do. Probably have a work snitch convention or something, but they all link up and tell on each other. But I don't know. I always feel like people who are very petty spend their free time finding ways to be more petty. So I'm pretty sure, even though that they're away from work, they're thinking about, man, when I get back in there Monday, if Andrew just shows up 2 minutes late, I'm gonna get him.
Ken, thank you for this discussion.